Welcome to the Complete Performance Exercise Breakdown video series, where we use these videos to offer tips and techniques on a variety of exercises so that you get the most out of your training and you get the best results. Today, we're diving into wall hip raises. I love different variation of hip raises. They're great for glute activation, and there are so many different ways to vary them, to use them, so that you're constantly changing the way that your glutes are firing. So let's get into the technique of these. Now, everyone asks, what's the difference in putting your feet on the wall or your feet on the floor? Well, changing the angle at which you're pressing matters a lot to how your glutes fire. You're strengthening them in a different plane. You're activating higher up into those hamstrings, and you're forcing yourself to really push through the floor and generate force like you would for bigger exercises, like a squat or a deadlift. So, I'm going to use a box instead of a wall, simply so you can see the best angle and see this from a side view. So let's go into the technique. Now with these, you want to lie down in front of a wall, and you want to set up so your feet are flat, they're straight out from your knees. You want your knees to be right over your hips. So everything's at 90 degrees here. From here, I'm going to press through the heels and drive all the way up. Slightly move my feet up so I'm pressing at the right angle and getting that full hip extension. Squeezing those glutes, really pressing through the floor, keeping my core engaged here. Now, it looks simple, it looks easy, yet there are a lot of common mistakes. The first is how you're pressing. A lot of people might struggle in getting that right range of motion out of their ankles. So they press through their toes. And yes, that gives you a burn into your hamstrings and actually really lights up your calves. But this is a glute and a hamstring exercise. And when we do that, we take a lot of the work out of our glutes. So really work to keep those. And if that means you have to slide your feet up like I did initially, slide those feet up so they're at just above that 90-degree angle to really press into the floor and get those glutes. I would much rather you do that than stay at 90 and press through the toes. The second one is missing full hip extension. Hip raises are designed to be a hip extension exercise. They work on strengthening your glutes' ability to extend the hip and get to this position. Now, as you saw in the first one that I did, my feet were too far and I was unable to extend the hips. We want to get that full hip extension to really work things through the entire range of motion. So similar to pressing through your toes, maybe slide those feet up so you can extend and fully get to that full range of motion. The last one is very common for any variation of hip raise. It's just kind of raising and lowering the hips. And yes, that's the point of a hip raise, but we want it to be a glute squeeze. So squeeze through the glutes to then raise the hips and then slowly lower back to the floor. We don't ever want it to be just an up and down type of motion. We want to get the most out of that. So start at the bottom, squeeze your glutes together, squeeze tighter, 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 and press into the floor, and that's going to give you that hip raise type of motion. One more time for the technique. Set up so your feet are at or maybe just above that 90-degree angle. Your hips are right under your knees, and from here we're going to press into the wall, squeezing the glutes right out of the bottom to drive all the way to the top. That core stays engaged, so squeeze from the bottom, fully extend the hips, and gently come back down to the floor. Those are wall hip raises. Add those in as a variation, work a different angle of your glutes and your hamstrings, and get some major benefits and strength gains so that you can see more out of your bigger lifts. Best of luck.